I hope y'all are having a great day, and today I'm here to ramble and discuss YA, you know, as usual, but today's topic is going to be something that was prompted by an article that you might have heard of. I went on Twitter last week and everyone was talking about this one article that was published on Slate by a woman named Ruth Graham, and naturally I clicked on it and I read it and I got angry. And I feel like if you hold even an ounce of respect for young adult literature, you can't help but read this article and get angry. So this is my response to that. I'm not even going to try and claim that this video will be articulate or eloquent at all. It's just going to be emotional and angry, probably. But anyway, the title of this article is called Against YA. So Ruth graciously lets the readers know how ridiculous the article is going to be before we even get into it. Like seriously, the headline on the main page for this article was, "Are you a grown-up who reads young adult fiction?" And the subtitle is, "You should be embarrassed." I will admit that it's a possibility that Slate published this article just to garner attention and get more views. It's nothing short of pathetic, but I don't hold Slate above it. The article itself is painfully ignorant, and I don't recommend anybody to read it because the lack of research the author did will pierce you in the worst way possible. Okay, honestly, how many times are ignorant people, usually self-righteous adults, going to bash on young adult fiction? Because honestly, I am so sick of it. This topic has been exhausted, and yet here we are again, prompted by a supposedly new article that's just a reiteration of the same arguments that ignorant people have proposed. And what I'm going to say in this video isn't new information either, but I guess it has to be repeated because there are still articles like this being published. But the bottom line is, stop shaming YA. Plain and simple. It's okay not to like YA. I don't expect it to be everyone's cup of tea. You can dislike YA. Just stop shaming it, and more importantly, I think, stop shaming the people who read it. In this case, adults. It's an unreasonable and outrageously idiotic and mean thing to do. So first off, Ruth Graham calls Twilight and Divergent transparently trashy. Twilight is always the butt of people's jokes, and that really irritates me because Twilight is the book that got me and so many other readers I know actively into avid reading. So I have nothing but respect for Stephenie Meyer and her work because she just changed my life. Like, in all seriousness, if I hadn't come across Twilight at the age that I did, and if I hadn't enjoyed it as much as I did, I probably wouldn't be an avid reader. Twilight at its core isn't about sparkly vampires. It's literally about a girl who finds what she wants and learns how to work and fight for it. And it doesn't matter if what she wants is a boy. It doesn't matter if what she wants is a romance, because you know what? Wanting romance doesn't lessen the book's quality. And hopefully you guys already know how I feel about Divergent, so I won't go into too much detail about that. In my opinion, it's a story about a girl who's learning the meaning of sacrifice and also how one person can change society for the better. And these kinds of themes, like bravery and selflessness and sacrifice, these aren't exclusive to the books that I read. These are themes that carry across different genres. You can find these same themes in adult books and children's books. I know so many readers, myself included, that read both young adult fiction and adult fiction, and one genre isn't better than the other. One genre isn't shameful while the other is. In my opinion, the only thing shameful about the situation is that Ruth Graham is a grown adult and she still has this kind of ignorant perspective. Young adult or children's or adult, those are nothing but labels. All it is classifying the age range of the main protagonist or separating it by the target audience. And yet, in this one particular article, Ruth Graham is shaming people who are adults who read young adult literature. Like, that's such a crime. Ruth Graham claims that YA books are too simple and that the ends are always too satisfying, and this confuses me because it's coming from a woman who has claimed to read Eleanor and Park. You think that end is satisfying? Were we reading the same book? She says young adult fiction lacks moral and emotional ambiguity, and that those things can be found in adult books and also in real life. But honestly, one of the most morally ambiguous government systems that I've ever read about is the Clave in the Mortal Instrument series, because that group of authority is kind of messed up. She also says that young adult books are just plainly pleasurable. This is a quote from the article. Even the myriad defenders of YA fiction admit that the enjoyment of reading this stuff has to do with escapism, instant gratification, and nostalgia. As if that's something to be ashamed about. Reading itself is a form of escapism, and that's not limited to young adult novels. And also, according to Graham, if you're seeking gratification, you should be ashamed. Like Ruth Graham, what are you, a priest? And of course, nostalgia is also a sin, right? Like, God, don't reminisce on the past. Adults never do that. And if they do, especially by reading young adult literature, then they should be so dreadfully ashamed. Another quote, fellow grown-ups, at the risk of sounding snobbish and joyless and old, we are better than this. Right, because once you're an adult, you're too good to be reading fantastic stories. I'm 16, I read mainly young adult books, and I love them. But if I were 40 and I read mainly young adult books and I loved them, suddenly it'd be a crime because I am better than that. Recently, my mom has started getting into the Harry Potter books. Harry Potter, as you probably know, is a wildly popular children's book series, and my mother is not a child. She's an adult and she's reading children's fiction. God, she should be so ashamed, right? No, so wrong. I am insanely proud of my mom for finally reading the Harry Potter series because it is such a fantastic series. Who cares if you're reading books that aren't targeted towards your age demographic? I have classmates who've read and enjoyed 50 Shades of Grey, and should they be ashamed? I don't think so. If you're an adult reading young adult literature, should you be ashamed? Never. Not on any planet, in any universe, should you ever be ashamed of what you're reading. Young adult fiction isn't something that you mature from in the sense that one day you'll wake up and think, oh, I'm older, I'm now better than young adult. Maybe your reading taste will change as you get older, and that's completely fine. But that doesn't mean young adult becomes something that is beneath you. Young adult is simply a genre of books written about and usually targeted toward young adults. But it's in no way limited to that age range. Young adult books aren't too simple, and the endings aren't uniformly satisfying, and young adult as a genre is definitely never something that you should be ashamed about. And if you think it is, you clearly haven't researched the topic thoroughly enough. All I have to say now is Ruth Graham perhaps read more than like 5 young adult books before claiming to be an expert on the topic. Just some friendly advice for next time. Also, maybe stop shaming people for what they read and instead embrace the fact that they're reading. I guess to me the bottom line is don't shame people for what they read, and also labels are just that. They're just labels. They're used for classification purposes only. If it's on a young adult shelf, it doesn't mean that it lacks quality or lacks moral or emotional ambiguity or that it's too simple or that the end is too satisfying. Because in all honesty, if you even cared enough to just pick up the book and read it, you'd probably find yourself enjoying it and realizing that it's a really great story, no matter who it's targeted for. Okay, rant over. I'm good. I cooled down. And even though I was probably really angry throughout this video, I didn't mean to be offensive. So just please take my word for that. I just wanted to let my thoughts out. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day and happy reading, because you can still read happily no matter what genre it is. Goodbye!